Narratives That Shape Our World, The Speculative Voice by Brady Custom. Speculative fiction is a multi-layered and deeply formulated genre that entertains the idea of a world that is overtaken by future human advancements. A world that could be our reality if we evidently follow our current societal and technological paths. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and Ridley Scott's Blade Runner director's cut were both fueled by the future possibilities. Brave New World asks the question, what makes us human? Whilst exploring notions of philosophical developments of the 1930s and future possibilities of individuals who live for the state, not the state for the individual. This also comments on humanity's disconnection from nature and the harsh consequences that follow. These concerns are further explored in the film Blade Runner. These themes, however, are more relevant to the concerns of the 1980s. The individual and their place in society is viewed from the point of view of the replicants who are more human than human. Blade Runner also plays with the idea of humans' disconnection from the natural world and displays a range of negative repercussions that could occur if the people in power continue to disregard our need to conserve our natural environment. These texts are not only entertainment, but windows to the composer's mind and what they believe could be our future, according to their personal contexts and experiences. The composer's exploration of humanity's disconnection from nature enables the audience to question the importance of our natural environment and whether humanity's lack of effort to conserve nature will end up being disastrous if we continue down our current path. In Brave New World, Huxley highlights the possibility of using psychology as a means to control humans in an artificially created society to distance themselves further from nature. This is explored in Chapter 1, where infants were conditioned to dislike flowers with the use of electric shocks. As a result, the conditioned humans were deterred from nature for the rest of their lives. Huxley was inspired by John Watson, an American psychologist whose main focus in his studies was conditioning and controlling the emotions of human subjects. Watson also developed the Little Albert experiment, which proved the possibility of influencing the minds of infants. This experiment was directly referenced in the novel with the similarities of the experiments. Huxley uses symbolism to represent the intensely controlled environment of the world state. In Brave New World, the sport electromagnetic golf gives instant gratification and reward to its players through a guaranteed win. Huxley's commentary on controlled enjoyment is evident throughout. What about a round of electromagnetic golf at St. Andrews, says Lenina. Bernard considered that electromagnetic golf was a waste of time. The magnetic technology not only ensures nobody loses, but also that they receive a quick feeling of success. This reflects the world state's controlling nature and how the masses is kept happy through a small rush of gratification. The main source of this is sex and the drug soma, which has been normalized in this society by the world state. This is to ensure that people are satisfied so that they stay within their role and that they don't become curious of the outside world. Huxley also uses imagery and hyperbole to highlight the intricately controlled nature of the world state. Huxley applies these techniques through the narrator's description of the Bloomsbury Centre. The hands of all the 4,000 electric clocks in all the Bloomsbury Centre's 4,000 rooms marked 27 minutes past 2. This extreme depiction of the intricately monitored technology further confirms the complexity of the orderly and structured world state. Huxley uses these techniques to further push his message that our future society will likely reject the natural environment and instead rely on technology for our survival. Just like in Brave New World, the replicants in Blade Runner are artificially designed and live in a world that lacks natural elements. The mashing of diegetic and non-diegetic sound, as well as mise-en-scene elements such as dark and ominous colour palette, build the cityscape and create an otherworldly, bustling atmosphere. Ridley Scott's experience of directing epic urban landscapes, as well as the heightened concern for the environment during the 80s, perpetuated Scott's vision of an elaborate, futuristic cityscape with the lack of natural environment. In Blade Runner, Scott reflects concerns such as the rise of industrialization and consumerism, as well as its adverse effects on nature. The emphasis on the destroyed natural environment is a warning against man's greed, which would possibly lead to the loss of nature and even humanity. This idea is portrayed in Blade Runner when it is mentioned that the upper class population moves off-world, whereas the poorer population and replicants live on Earth. Ridley Scott also uses symbolism in Blade Runner to highlight the disconnect between humans and nature. In Tyrell's office, there is displayed a dying bonsai plant. This is representative of the class divide in Blade Runner, and that nature is only for the upper class, but even then, it can barely survive. The selfish destruction of the natural world for monetary gain and power has a large-scale impact, not only within nature, but also on what it means to be human. The destruction of nature and our connection to it is Scott's way of informing his audience of the dangers of this ideology. There are also multiple animal references throughout Blade Runner. For example, Zora is constantly paired with the imagery of the snake. Zora has a tattoo of a snake and also carries around a synthetic snake that she dances with. It is possible that the snake is a biblical allusion to the relationship of the serpent and Eve. Eve tempted by eating the forbidden fruit which brings her downfall, and Zora was tempted by the idea of being human, which bring her own downfall. It is also worth highlighting that these characters are linked with synthetic animals when they are synthetic themselves. The use of synthetic animals is a commentary on humanity's deplorable natural state, and that in the near future, animals and other aspects of nature will be barely accessible to humans. This disconnect from nature is a major theme in speculative fiction, which has a real possibility of becoming true to life. Scott uses these techniques to further comment on the increase in concern of climate change that he experienced himself in the 80s, as well as his industrialized town of West Hartlepool in East England. In Brave New World, civilians are conditioned to live through their subconsciousness rather than their conscious minds. This helps them to conform and blend in with society. The exploration of what makes us human is a universally pondered question, and Huxley's exploration of this question is prevalent in Brave New World, where he makes the point that humans lack humanity when they are not curious, creative, and when they seek rebellion. Huxley often uses euphemisms in Bernard's dialogue to express his embarrassment around his rebellious nature. This is evident when Bernard says, "I'd rather be myself," as well as "myself and nasty, not someone else, however jolly." This quote comments on how freedom has been stripped from the humans in the world state, and that the majority of people would rather be numb and experience this fake happiness than be their true selves. Their use of soma eliminates extreme human emotion, which evidently strips these people of their humanity, connection, and their identity. These ideas seem inhumane to the common reader and inspire thoughts around the true nature of humans. Huxley also uses rhyme within the propaganda slogans to explore themes of conditioning of the masses. An example being, "A gram is better than a damn." This rhyme exaggerates the repetitive nature of the characters' lives, and it comments on the idea that subconsciously, rhyming naturally leads to phrases being more memorable. Huxley's repetitive use of the slogans and blatant exploitation of propaganda throughout the world state exposes the audience to his purpose and ideas. This reveals the world state's blatant use of psychological manipulation tactics to push their belief system into their civilians. This links to Huxley's context of the psychological testing by John Watson. In Blade Runner, the replicants are created to be more human than human regarding their physical abilities, but are deemed by the society to lack sympathy and creativity. However, their placed memories, compassion, and their care for animals are all human-like attributes that point towards the replicants being more humane than the current humans in the future civilization. Ridley Scott uses illusion to strengthen the creative intelligence of Roy. When Roy and Leon are at the iLab, he misquotes the British poem William Blake. Fiery the angels fell, deep thunder rolled around their shores, burning with the fires of Orc. In Blake's actual poem, the angels rise from the fire rather than fall. This shows his rebellious nature and his rebellion of Tyrell. It is also biblically symbolic of how angels rebelled against God, just like how Roy is rebelling against his creator, Tyrell, who is depicted as a godlike figure throughout the entirety of the film. Scott also uses juxtaposition to attend to how replicants are treated by humans. An example of this is when Zora ran past the mannequins before she was shot by Deckard. This comments on how Zora, as an artificial being, was created and produced just like a mannequin. This places emphasis on how replicants are treated by society as if they look just like a human but are completely hollow. This idea that artificial intelligence could have more humanity than the humans that created it is a largely speculated topic of our future. Scott's use of these techniques helped the audience to be entertained with this future fantasy. Ultimately, Brave New World and Blade Runner entertain audiences with the idea of futuristic worlds with highly advanced technologies and exaggerated problems of today. Brave New World explores the disconnection from nature through moral misdirection with concepts such as psychological manipulation and instant gratification. Blade Runner also explores similar themes throughout a different lens and context with the creation of synthetic life and our inability to care for the environment. Ridley Scott comments on man's greed and destruction of the natural world. Both texts explore what it means to be human by exposing readers to concepts of behavioral conditioning, but also the possibility of artificial intelligence. Huxley's and Scott's contexts both play a major role in how they have implemented these themes of speculative fiction to their works. Despite their different contexts, both texts ultimately represent the extreme consequences of a society run by an all-powerful government that exhibits greed, control, and no consideration of the natural world.